In the midst of the Cambodian return to civil war, as the United States continued to seek its political objectives in Cambodia, including the fullest possible accounting for our POW MIAs, and where we were getting the best cooperation in the world, in emphasizing and promoting law enforcement issues. We broke up an international drug trafficking ring, bringing people to justice, which would lead to multiple other cases that would, in the end, bring about 20 people to justice, trafficking in international narcotics, to stopping North Korean counterfeiters who were doing things that would ultimately devalue our currency. But one of the huge objectives that remained was obliterating the Khmer Rouge, ensuring that the Khmer Rouge could never return to power. And as I've previously explained, the way to get at the Khmer Rouge, the way to get at insurgencies, was to build roads out into the areas where the Khmer Rouge were located and bring in new agricultural seeds, new technology. And on those same roads would flow the human rights and education and the commerce that would undo the Khmer Rouge more than almost anything else. And so we had a coordinated project with the government, with the Prime Minister, Hun Sen, to bring the Khmer Rouge to justice, to eliminate them. And that was also a foundation of our new, improved relationship with Vietnam and with Vietnamese officials. I'd always start the conversation by saying how much we are in agreement, the basis of our relationship, to destroy the Khmer Rouge. And the Vietnamese communists would react very, very favorably. So in the beginning of my story about interacting with the Khmer Rouge, which started on that June day in 1973, when I stood atop Nui Sam Mountain in South Vietnam, just outside the city of Chau Duc province, watching the villages burn across this great wide area as the Khmer Rouge began their terrible pogrom, their terrible, brutal policies that would take so many lives. And my reports on that initiative, that effort, in effect sort of opened the book about the Khmer Rouge. A book that I would contribute to not only by my State Department reporting, but my doctoral dissertation, which was on the origins and development of radical Cambodian communism. Where did Pol Pot come from? Why did he kill all those people? And now, 1999, 26 years later, endeavoring to track down and bring to justice, forced to surrender the Khmer Rouge. And in my reporting from the early 1970s, the Khmer Rouge military leader who had first started those first attacks that I witnessed in June 73's name was Ta Mok, T-A-M-O-K, Ta Mok. And he was known for his brutality, his ruthlessness, his courage in battle. No fear, but brutal, killer. And now in 1999, Ta Mok is one of the few remaining military command leaders still out there, still leading troops, but now far from southwestern Cambodia, where I first observed him from my perch in Vietnam. Now we're tracking him down, and he's running to hide in Thailand, and the Thai are pushing him back into Cambodia. And it's a Saturday night, just like that first day when I saw him initiate his program was on a Saturday in June of 1973. Now, on Saturday, March the 6th, 1999, I was at Hun Sen's compound with so many other people who were coming to see the wedding of his daughter. And the phone rings, and it's a member of his key staff calling to tell me that Ta Mok has just stepped across the border from Thailand to Cambodia and surrendered and given up and turned himself over to Cambodian authorities. I called Washington. I called the State Department Operations Center. I wanted to report this. This was so meaningful to me. So meaningful because, in effect, this closed the book. The last Khmer Rouge leader. We had totally eradicated the worst genocidal, mass murdering terrorist organization of the second half of the 20th century. The organization led by Pol Pot, the most infamous of them all, but also featuring Ta Mok, the brutal commander, who in his implementation of Pol Pot's directives may have been even more brutal than Pol Pot himself. "20 years later, in 2019, I would get a call from James Smith, follow-up visit by Glenn Ford from the Aegis Trust Foundation of the United Kingdom. They're an organization that works so very, very hard, dedicated to eradicating genocide, to ameliorating the impact of genocide in places where it has occurred, such as Rwanda, where they've worked very extensively, and preventing it from occurring in other countries, be they in Africa, South Asia, East Asia, wherever. And he was calling to tell me that I would receive the Stephen Krulis Aegis Trust Award for confronting genocide, Champion of Humanity Distinguished Service Award for confronting genocide. Only once before ever presented by the Aegis Trust. That was to a Canadian military commander who, despite orders to step back and not become involved during the Rwandan genocide, ignored his orders and went ahead and tried to help and keep people alive who were being hunted down by the Hutus as part of the slaughter of up to 1 million people that occurred in 1994. And in Cambodia, in 1999, it would have been so very, very appropriate for the capture of Ta Mok to be celebrated in that same way. But 20 years later, I was in the House of Lords in London, where I would receive the Aegis Trust Award for confronting genocide and for eliminating the worst genocidal, mass murdering, terrorist organization of the second half of the 20th century. And with Ta Mok's capture, it would effectively end the Khmer Rouge.